I was born of the Duluth, Mesabi and Northern Railroad in 1906. Later, in 1938, she would be merged with her sister railroad, the Duluth and Iron Range Railroad, to become the Duluth, Mesabi and Iron Range Railroad. My life's mission was to repair and service the steam locomotives that were used to transport iron ore from the mines on the Iron Range in northern Minnesota to the ore docks at Two Harbors and Duluth, where the iron ore would begin its journey on Lake Superior to the steel mills. This route was known as the Mesabi Road. It was a road made of steel rails, and it connected us with the rest of the country. Mesabi is a Native American Ojibwe word for giant mountain or the sleeping giant. To aid me in my mission, two small towns, Mitchell and Red Oak, were constructed alongside me to house my staff and their families, and a school was built to educate their children. An 80-room hotel was also built to house overnighting train crews. I could not have been happier. There was life all around me and in me. I could simply gaze a short distance to the southeast to watch children skating on a rink that we created for them. My surroundings were beautiful and quite unique, as they were every bit as much residential as industrial. In 1928, I dispatched two of my locomotives to pick up President Calvin Coolidge and his family in order to bring him here to see the newly constructed Hibbing High School, which was considered to be one of the finest in the land, and to view our vitally important iron ore mines. Perhaps my greatest contribution to our nation came during the Second World War, when our country was in need of vast amounts of iron ore to produce steel for the armaments of war that would be needed to win the war. You may be too young to remember, but during that time I was quite well known nationally to be one of the busiest places in the country. 85% of the steel produced during that period came from iron ore that passed through my yards. At one point, my people here accomplished the Herculean task of sending out 65 iron ore trains per day. I retired in 1960 when the truly magnificent steam locomotives were replaced with diesel power. But over the years, I've come to realize that I still have a contribution to make to our nation. It is in the education of our children. To start with, just being here and looking at me is a learning experience unto itself. I know that my clothing is a bit tattered, and I'm in truly desperate need of a new hat. But I also know that with your help, I can begin another important mission, helping our kids to lead a happy and productive life. And I believe that I am uniquely qualified to do this because of who I am and where I am. settled by immigrants from 28 different countries, speaking nearly as many different languages. And the one thing they held in common was that the education of their children was paramount, and this was evident by the schools they built. Hibbing was one of the first cities in the nation to expand educational opportunities by opening a 2-year junior college housed within the high school in 1916. The town's first librarian was Captain William Henry McCormick, who was employed by the Duluth, Mesabi and Northern Railroad as a railroad crossing guard, who conscientiously worked to keep the youngsters of the community safe when they were crossing the tracks. In 1907, Andrew Carnegie built one of the first Carnegie libraries here. By 1911, the Hibbing schools boasted one of the most expensive industrial arts training programs in the nation. The first bookmobile in the nation came into existence here in 1915, and in 1923, when the entire town of Hibbing was moved 2 miles to the south to allow for the mining of the iron ore that was beneath it, the Oliver Iron Mining Company, also a subsidiary of the United States Steel Corporation, paid for the entire cost of building the new and still magnificent to this day Hibbing High School. This is just some of our heritage. Here, in the briefest possible way, is an outline of our plans. The Dillon Center will consist of a performance stage and a state-of-the-art recording studio. Our goal will be to acquire an impressive collection of new and vintage musical instruments, which will be freely available to young people, along with some training by volunteers. It will be a place of discovery and inspiration. And when the recording studio is not in use by our students, it will be rented out to established musicians as a way to help fund its operation. There will be a visiting artist program established. We will periodically invite musicians to spend an afternoon with our kids, in which they would perform and simply talk to our kids in an informal atmosphere. As an example, we would invite artists such as the extraordinary keyboardist Jordan Rudess. Here is Mr. Rudess demonstrating some music creation software at a music convention. Imagine young people experiencing music such as this being created before their very eyes.
Some of these sounds are made to just be, you take your time with them and let them breathe. This is a really good example of one of those. They encourage me to calm down and just kind of do the right thing. This is like a guitar type of guitar-based patch, and I really think it's beautiful. So check this out. Our Train of Thought program will offer creative writing classes and will be an essential part of the center. Who knows, the next great songwriter may receive their inspiration here. All of our students will receive critical thinking training. The Dillon Center will house a School of Metal Sculpture, a hands-on introduction to metal sculpture in our metalworking shop. We believe the two most important decisions a person will ever make are their choice of a mate and their choice of an occupation. We can't help with the former,
but we can certainly help with the latter. Our initial pre-vocational training classes, which we refer to as the Getting on Track program, will be an introduction to computer-aided drafting, an introduction to metalworking, both manual and computer-aided. Also, the Tiny House program, where students will learn to build an entire tiny house. This will serve as an introduction to all of the various skills that are required for such an endeavor. And when a tiny house is completed, it will be sold to help fund this program. New classes, such as furniture building, will be added as time goes by. It is important to note how we view all of our programs. They are intended to be prototypes that can be exported to other areas of the country once we have demonstrated their positive impact on young people. The Dillon Center will then serve as a showcase of our work.